The planetary interactions have a very profound they have a very profound impact not only on your natal chart but your general life as it is with the energies, the moving energies. So tonight, in tonight's episode of Astrology After Dark, we're going to be talking about how to understand the impact that the aspects in your natal chart, the impact that aspects make to your natal chart. All tongue tied, okay? All right, and so if you are new to me, to my channel, to any of my content in social media land, my name is kkatrice. I am the Natal Chart Navigator, and I am an astrological intuitive energy reader, and I teach open-minded, ambitious, divorced women over 35 how to use astrology to increase their finances and to align with their true selves. Okay, and so tonight we are going to be talking about the impact that aspects make within your chart. Okay. Now, if you have not, before we jump into it, if you have not gotten your free copy of my three-step framework, um, which shows you how you become energetically synced with your natal chart, it's the three steps that I use when I'm interpreting a chart. I'm giving that away absolutely free. So you want to go to my link tree and get that. It gives the three steps. So you definitely want to get that. And if you are brand new to astrology, I'm going to link the astrology basics here not in the comments, in the it'll be the pinned comment. I'll do it after the stream because I don't want to take up too much time. Okay, so let's jump into it. First of all, what are aspects? Okay, so aspects are the planetary interactions. Okay, and so they basically show when the planets interact in this way. This is what happens. Okay, and so there's five major aspects. Okay, and then there are other minor, what's called minor aspects, which they still have a very profound influence on your chart. But just for all intents and purposes, tonight we're only going to be talking about the major five aspects. Okay. All right. So there is the first one that we're going to talk about, which I think I like this one the best out of all of them, is the conjunction. Okay, the conjunction is the first aspect in astrology. It's the first aspect we're talking about tonight, and the conjunction is when planets and points, when the energies blend. Okay, and so they act together. So the closer they are in conjunction, the more subjective these combined energies are. Okay, um, they don't stand alone, and they have a difficult time acknowledging each other as distinct or separate. Okay, now, conjunctions can be a blind spot. Okay. And so when the sun is in close conjunction to Neptune, for example, other people may notice it. You may not, but other people may. And it may be hard for the native to distinguish between their sense of individuality and their spiritual, evasive, or roundabout nature. The native may just assume naturally that others are much the same way. Okay. So when you have another example is when you have, say, Saturn conjunct Venus. Okay. Having Saturn conjunct Venus, meaning that you take on a more serious approach. You kind of be really super serious um, when it comes to love, when you're in a relationship. you are also probably very serious when it comes to handling your money, or dealing with when it comes to receiving money, because Venus rules money and Saturn is structure, it's karma, it also symbolizes like old age and maturity. And so you're probably somebody who you look for you want to be with mature people, okay? You only date, and you may be young, but you may only date older people because you want that maturity. You seek maturity in your life, in your love, okay? Um, Now that is the conjunction, okay? The sextile is often read like the trine, but there is a distinct. So sextile energy is it is a very favorable, what we call favorable energy, meaning that when two planets are sextiling each other, their energies are working together harmoniously. Okay. Now, and it has it because the energies work together harmoniously, things flow a little easier. Okay. Um, Now, trines come so naturally to people that they might have things they might have to remind themselves of their own talent or ability. Okay, so that's what the trine. A sextile, you may have to work on it a little bit more, but it still flows easier than, say, if it were a square. Okay. Now, the square energy is where planets are 90 degrees apart, and this creates tension between the planets and the points involved. Okay, and so this tension is necessary in order to stimulate action, but too much tension can translate to stress. Okay, so when planets are involved in a square, they are acting at a cross. Okay, and so with squares, we may overdo things or run into countless obstacles before we actually get it right. Okay. But squares force us out of complacency and they get the ball rolling. Now, some squares are often more difficult when we are young, as these aspects force us to grow and learn our lessons. No, Aurora, stop it. No. That's my dog. All right. Now, an example of a square would be so in my chart, I have Venus square Neptune. Okay. And so while Venus and I have Neptune in the fifth house, and I have a Venus in the second house. Okay. And so while, the good parts about having that square is that I love romance. I'm a really romantic person. And it kind of, that Neptune influence to my Venus, it kind of helps my Venus out because Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. And so having, but mine is in Virgo. And so when Venus is in Virgo, Venus is in fall, meaning that it is in the energy that just is so not compatible with its natural self, okay, with its natural nature. But having that Neptune there, it does kind of loosen up my Venus. But then on the other hand, it can make things in love kind of cloudy, kind of rosy, like a rosy film. And so I've had to learn, it's forced me to really like come out of love land, that mental fog, and like really focus and look on. And it's not just in love, but it's in all of the things that Venus influences. That influence is also, squaring, is in a tension with Neptune. Okay. So there are good parts about, now a square is what is an unfavorable aspect. because it forces you to grow, okay, and to learn, right? And so a lot of times, sometimes we don't want to grow because growth is not always the easiest thing. And so squares are kind of looked at as unfavorable, but there are favorable parts about it because the growth, once we grow, once we get, through that growth, what comes out on the other side is, that beauty, right? All right, and then we have the trine. Okay, so the trine is the other favorable aspect. Okay, and so planets and trines support each other. And so trines by nature are accepting. They allow us to accept others, ourselves, and situations. And the talents that trines offer a native are so natural that they are almost unconscious. Okay. And so often enough, the native does not truly appreciate the talents that the trines offer them, and they may not try to develop them. Okay. However, these talents are second nature and completely natural. So a good example of this is, say you have Venus trine Neptune. Okay, now I just discussed Venus square Neptune because I have that in my own chart, right? So now we're going to look at the opposite. We're going to look at Venus trine Neptune. Okay, so this may make you poetic, romantic, and artistic, right? And you may easily accept your romantic partner for who he or she is. Okay. Now, um, go back to say you have Venus square Neptune. You may have similar qualities and possess a strong desire to accept your partner blindly, but doing so may not be as natural as if you had Venus trine Neptune. Okay. And so having it square Neptune, you have to kind of work on that a little bit, and it might come up against difficult situations in which you feel duped or abused by your partner as a result of that acceptance. Now, I do have Venus square Neptune, so I can totally relate to that, right? All right, and then the last major aspect is the opposition. Okay, now the opposition is this is looked at as unfavorable. Okay, but again, there's always something favorable that comes out of the unfavorable. Okay, um, the opposition, it takes two, is the expression, and the opposition is created by dividing the circle by two. So dividing the natal chart in half. Okay. And so that is the key to understanding the meaning of this aspect, that it has to be apart from one another. Okay. So an example of this would be, say you have your sun in the first house and your moon in the seventh house. Now, you do have to look at the degree as well for it to be a true opposition um, by degree. But say your sun is at say 12 degrees and then your moon is at 13 degrees, okay, in the seventh house. So that would be an opposition, okay? And so people with opposition seek out others as if to mirror their own internal struggles. They learn about themselves through interactions with others. And very often, oppositions cause us to swing from one side to the other and we feel torn. Okay. And so, oppositions represent a state of divided loyalties. Inner discontent, uncertainty, and insecurity can be a result of having oppositions. And so, see, a square is urgent and courageous, and opposition is unsure and wavering. And so, when we use our oppositions correctly, we are more willing to consider the other side and can be adept negotiators. Now, you can think of oppositions if you think about the energy of Libra. Okay, if you don't really know too much about Libra, I do have a playlist, the Zodiac playlist, where I Have I gone to Libra? No, I'm doing that now. I think I'm on next week. It'll be Leo. So Libra will be coming up. But you can Google, in the meanwhile, you can Google Libra energy. Libra energy is all about the partner. It's a partnership energy, but it's also balance. Okay. And you're talking about balance. So with when you think about an opposition, you can kind of think about it kind of like it functions kind of like Libra energy. Okay, it has that balance, and it like one side affects the other side. Okay, all right. So let's talk about the differences now between sextiles and trines. Okay, remember sextiles and trines are the favorable aspects. Okay. Now, both of these aspects show us when you see these in your natal chart that the planets involved are buddies who get along. But the trine buddies may take each other for granted, even though they feed off of each other, while the sextile buddies remain separate and they cooperate. When they cooperate with each other, they fully appreciate their interaction. Okay. So trine energy is an energy that it's like you kind of take it for granted. Okay. So a trine would be, I'll use the second, 10th, and 6th house. Okay. So those three houses make a trine. They are trying to each other. Okay. And they're favorable. So in my chart on the second house, I have Virgo. On the 6th house, I have Capricorn, and then 10th house, I have Taurus. Okay. So all three of those are the same element, the earth element. Okay. So second house is the money house. 6th house is your daily routines. 10th house is your career. Okay. So all three of those houses are trining each other, same element. And then in my solar return chart, I have 2 planets in each of those houses. Okay. So that's called the Earth Grand Trine. Okay. So that would say that, oh my gosh, you're going to have like a really good 2024. Okay. Like based upon my chart, because those are material houses. So my material world is going to be amazing for 2024 because I have that energy. Now, because that energy is so easy and so fluid, I have to remember that while, yes, my chart shows that it's going to be, there's the potential for it to be an amazing year in the material realm, in the material world, I still have to put in the work, right? I can't just sit back and, be lackadaisical and not really get out and focus and do what it is that I need to do. Okay. But when you have trines in your chart like that, a lot of times, because that energy is so favorable, it makes you kind of sit back and just, oh, I know it's going to come. Oh, I know it's going to happen. And while it does happen, if you apply the energy more, then you'll reap more of a benefit. Okay. I hope that explains it. So that's a trine. Okay. Sextiles is when they're 60 degrees apart. And those energies, you have to kind of, those energies together, they work more together. You have to put in more work to actually get a benefit out of it. Whereas a trine, is energy that you take for granted. Okay. Conscious effort has to be put in, and that's what makes that energy flow. Okay. Now, the difference between oppositions and squares. Squares create the kind of tension that demands action. Okay. Now, oppositions also create tension. Okay. But you generally have to seek out others in relationships in order to work out that tension. Okay. So planets in opposition generally occur with compatible sign elements, while squares generally occur between signs that are incompatible by element. Okay. So this means we'll go back to my chart. Okay. So in my chart, my Venus is in Virgo. My Neptune is in the sign of Sagittarius. Okay. Two totally different energies. One is earth, one is fire. One is more grounded. One is, like off in the wind, like fire, like, very, very action oriented. Okay. And so those energies they're totally opposite. They're totally incompatible. And so it takes action. Like I have to really put in action in order to work to make those energies flow. Okay. Now, whereas in an opposition, let's take for example, my fourth house is Scorpio, and my 10th house is fourth house is Scorpio, 10th house is Taurus. Okay. And so I have Jupiter in Scorpio, but I don't have anything. Well, I have Chiron in Taurus. Okay. But they're not technically in opposite my chart, but just for this example, if they were, okay, Scorpio and Taurus energy are both compatible energies. They're both feminine energies, and they are opposite energies of each other. They're the same axis, so they're both security, right? So that emotional security and the material security of Taurus, okay, they're compatible, and their elements are compatible. Okay. So that opposition of, say, Jupiter and Chiron is the wounded healer. Jupiter expands. Okay. So in that aspect, I would, because I have that needing that security within my material, it'll expand, and I'll attract to me somebody where they need that emotional, and then that is when that energy will go into effect, right? Because it's outside of me. Okay. And that creates the opposition, my energy opposite somebody else's energy, and it feeds off of each other. Okay. So the square demands action, but that action is more so internal within you, whereas the opposition, it's expressed more outwardly. Okay. If that makes sense. Okay. So now, if you have predominant, I'm going to go over the next thing I'm going to talk about is if you predominantly have these aspects in your chart, a lot of this particular aspect, how it kind of plays out. Okay. So if you have a lot of conjunctions in your chart, then you are probably somebody who's pretty focused, and you derive your motivation from within, not without. Um, with You don't have any oppositions, or you might not have enough oppositions. It may be hard to see the other side, or easy for you to lose perspective. Okay, now you have to take the whole chart into consideration. Okay, because you could have a lot of conjunctions, but you could also have your Mercury in the sign of Libra, and you would be able to see things from it'll be easy for you to see things from the other side. Okay, um, now if you have a lot of predominant sextiles, you're somebody who is communicative, creative, and expressive. um, have a lot of squares. You're crisis oriented, action oriented, motivated. You're willing to tackle obstacles. You don't blindly accept things. You're energetic, and your strength of character and will is strong. Now, if you have quite a bit of trines, you're unchallenged, you're talented, accepting, comfortable, and you can be complacent. And then if you have a lot of oppositions, you can be contradictory. You'll seek balance in your life, usually through your relationships. You're insightful. You look for the meaning in life. You're inclined to project your qualities onto others. You can be unfocused, greater capacity for objectivity, and you seek growth through your relationships. Okay. Now, if you're lacking aspects in your chart, okay, if you're lacking conjunctions, you may be scattered. You don't look within for answers, but you're probably pretty flexible. If you have a lack of sextiles, you're inclined to avoid creative pursuits. You're less expressive and communicative. If you lack squares in your chart, you could lack motivation, always looking to take the easy way out, confrontation avoidance, unchallenged, might be pretty habitual. If you lack trines within your chart, you may not be as balanced. You may be conflict oriented, very driven. And if you lack aspects in your chart, you may be subjective. You don't need partners to mirror yourself. You're self contented, not as concerned about growing through relationships or broadening your own perspective, and you're probably pretty self reliant. Okay. So this is how aspects, affect the chart. Um, so when you're looking at your chart, go back and see how many, conjunctions you have, how many trines, how many sextiles, how many squares, how many oppositions. Look and see that. And then, really look at the aspect, do a little research and see, I have Venus square Neptune. Kind of what does that mean, right? That's an example I gave. But go back, look at your chart and see, what do you have in your chart? And this gives more depth to your reading, okay? Because in the framework, and you can go to the link on the screen, in the framework, I talk about in the first step, you need to learn the bases. You need to learn the planets and the houses and all the basics. Then chapter 2 is where I talk about the aspects. The aspects is what really brings the chart to life, in my opinion. The interaction of your natal placements, the aspects is what brings it to life. Okay. And then third chapter is where we talk about the transits, and the transits is what illuminates the chart for where you are right now in your life. Okay. So if you have not gotten the framework, you definitely want to go and get that. It's absolutely free. You can get, just click the link in my link tree on the link that's on the screen. Just go there. Okay. All right. So that's it for tonight. And if you found value, you can share this out so that others can find value as well. Now, if you are, wanting to learn about yourself, you're wanting to start really, getting in tune with who you truly are, and you would like to book the energy audit with me, you can do so at my link tree. In the energy audit is a 20-minute energy audit where I go over your sun sign, moon sign, rising sign, and your chart ruler. And then I give you tips on how you can start utilizing that energy within your life to make changes. Okay. So it's very, very valuable. It is via Zoom. It is recorded, so you will get a copy of that to keep. It's yours. All right. So if you would like to do that, you can book that at the link on the screen. Okay. So that is all for tonight. Tomorrow on Astrology After Dark, we're going to be talking about transits, okay, and how the transits illuminate your chart, and how the transits illuminate your chart for where you are now, and helps you to make decisions for your right now. Okay, so you definitely want to come back. You don't want to miss that tomorrow. That's going to be really, really good. Okay. All right. So remember, possibilities are endless. If you can see it in your mind, then you can definitely hold it in your hand. And that should make you smile because you really do create your own reality. Have a good one.